Everyone, I can't believe it already is a month to the Inclusion Story Festival, a month of heartwarming, heartbreaking, inspiring, lovely stories from children who just wanted their stories to be heard, irrespective of all the differences. They have used these stories to reach out to the larger world, from moving to us to them. And they've made friends from the neurotypical community who heard their stories and loved their stories. And to build more inclusive movements, we need to create stories that speak about us, that carry our messages, that support others. And perhaps that is why our stories matter. And today I'm delighted to have our festival partners here with us from the neurodiverse community join in and talk about their storytelling journeys. Warm welcome, Shivani Dhillon-Award, award-winning social entrepreneur and founder of Samvid Stories, the force behind the festival. Two fantastic champions of our cause, Pratima and Jyotsna, co-founders of Club Youngistan, a virtual learning platform for the young adults with disabilities. My congratulations to both of you for putting up such a wonderful platform together and for enabling so many of our bachas. I have my co-founders here as well, Nidhi and Archana, the wind beneath not that different wings. And of course, I'm hoping that Prachi will also join us. Prachi is the founder of Nayi, Disha, an award-winning resource and support center for neurodiverse families. Welcome, ladies, and a big congratulations for making this a success. And before I start, here's a glimpse of the festival.
Just give me 1 minute, please.
This is Samvid from Kolkata. You know, I really enjoyed the artistic painting pieces you made. They are just wonderful. One can surely be able to understand Lord Krishna's birth, his childhood, his naughtiness, and the Kan's birth through your drawings. I really loved it. And you keep on moving in your life with your works like this. And I always will enthusiastically wait for your next videos. Stay happy all the time. Bye bye.
Wonderful. That video sort of brings together just a glimpse of these stories that we've been putting over a period of a month, and we're so excited that these stories have reached a larger audience and are going to reach to perhaps people who have never interacted with the kids from neurodiverse community, and they'll see how they're different, but not very different. Let me start, Shivani, with you. When we were thinking about this festival, there was a lot happening, and we thought we'll start small, but it became a big one, and we were so excited. What has been this month like for you?
I think very, very heartwarming, because I think when we started, like you said, we thought that it's not going to be, we're going to start small, but we started sharing, inviting entries, and I saw how much children were just dying to tell their story. And the question was, should we write our story? Should we, or are we supposed to read a story? And you know how they lovingly call me either Shivani auntie. So I'm not a teacher. So they call me Shivani auntie, or they'll call me Jibber Jabber. So they all would say, Jibber Jabber, can we tell like you? Can you teach us how to tell a story? So these are all those children and young adults who've been listening to stories from me for so many years now. And I think for me as a storyteller, to actually see them out there telling a story was, I think, the most beautiful part of this whole 1 month. And not just when we say neurodiverse, this was absolutely, there was a diversity even here. If you remember Anshuman's story, he's a young adult with on the spectrum, and he's non-verbal, and he worked so hard to tell his story, which is photographs with different colors and how each color had a part to play. It is so beautifully done, and I can never forget Ashu's and even Harnoor's story, the one that you just saw in the video. I mean, these children have shown, I think each day we are seeing that our kids are capable of everything, literally everything, as long as they get a platform, as long as they get an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think that was, we were sort of expecting a lot of stories coming from your kids, because you've been telling us about them. But Club Youngistan was such a fascinating collaboration for us. And Pratima, Jyotsna, welcome once again. And would one of you tell us what was it like to work with these kids and tell them, hey, this is a storytelling festival happening, send us your entries? What were their questions? How excited were they? And how did you put it together?
You want me to take that, Pratima?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mugdha. In fact, I just wanted to thank Bukosmia for this wonderful initiative. It's something I think much needed. We really didn't know what was possible until we decided to explore it. And I think when we look at storytelling per se, I think if you look at it from a bigger picture, it's such an immersive experience and very participatory, because I think everyone has a story to tell. I mean, it could just not be a single story. There are multiple stories. And I think it leads to an immense sense of connection. So I think actually inviting them into that space to share their stories, and not just verbally, also in a space where they can actually express through whatever, lights them up, that inner light that comes out through their art, their craft, their creations. I think that was something really beautiful, because, I think there's a beautiful story being narrated through that creation of theirs, and it's not just words. So I think it's also, I think when we had a non-verbal young person wanting to share their story with us, it also came as a reminder to both Pratima and me, it's not just about words. First we thought, what kind of a story, what shall we do? And then, it's also like being a community partner, wanting to take on that, that same kind of passion that we could see with Bukosmia. And I think the realization was they have a story. It's real or imagined, but it's all within them, just waiting to come out into a beautiful, safe space. So thank you. Yeah.
When we were sort of putting this together, we were wondering how many of them will participate and how many entries will come. And now Nidhi once told me that, we will have to stop taking entries for some time because we have so many that we will be able to run like a year-long festival. And it was so surprising. And when we were talking also about why stories matter, in fact, Nidhi and I, when we started talking about Not That Different initially, the idea was about social studies. How us as parents to neurodiverse children were using social stories to reach out to them. हम अपनी बातें उनसे इन stories के जरिए करते थे. And then when we started to talk about how we can take it to a bigger platform, the storytelling sort of came in as a big tool for a lot of things. My story as a parent, my child's story as a neurodiverse individual, stories that can connect us to the outer world, stories that can bring these two worlds together, can bring children from these two worlds together. In that narrative, Pratima, let me bring you in and ask you, when you started this platform, again, this platform is about telling those stories using art, using visuals and music and audio and video. What has been your journey like with Club Youngistan, and why do you feel stories were then a huge part of your initiative as well?
Thank you, Mugdha, and thank you, Bukosmia, for this platform. It is really wonderful, and thank you for having us here. And would like to tell this story of Club Youngistan now. So we started with actually a WhatsApp group and only Pune, based in December 2019. So it was, we thought of doing some activities offline, and was thinking of doing some things with like who are not doing schooling but who want occasional support or something like that. But then in pandemic, we thought of like what now, what next. Then we started thinking of and taking some sessions, and Zoom came in, and then we started doing some things on Zoom, some like some videos and all we have done with our champs. And then we thought of making this as a virtual platform. And in July 2020, we started with Club Youngistan. So the sessions that are happening since last 2 years are from Life Skills, Sanskar, from Champs Adda, that is their favorite get together. It happens on Sundays. So parents are not allowed there. They just talk what they want. They meet, and the bonding have happened over these 2 years is immense. I mean, they were meeting virtually, and now they are thinking that he is my friend. They will talk about themselves like yeah, Ahan is my friend, or like Kush is my friend, like that. They are bonded so well. So telling their own stories to their friends also have happened through this virtual meeting. So wherever they are sitting, they can just meet, chat, do whatever they want. So that is how it has happened. Some of the initiatives that we have started with, like Youngistan Galleria, so that is something to do with the products that these kids are making or they are selling, whatever they are doing in vocational setup. So that is Youngistan Galleria. 2 years we did it like Facebook Live, and now this year we have come up with hampers, gift hampers, inclusive with all the products that we have on Youngistan Galleria members. So that is happening. The another initiative we have is Artistic Youngistan, where whoever wants to show their talent, it is like music or like singing or drumming or whatever art they have, so they can showcase. That was also happening as Facebook Live. Now it is on Zoom. So this kind of initiatives, and some sessions are also conducted by our young adults. Drum sessions are conducted by Jyotsna's daughter Anandita. My son also assists her for that drum-based session. Also cooking sessions happens, that is also facilitated by one of our young adult. Art and craft sessions also. So that is how they are like sharing also, and bonding, and having that confidence that I can take the sessions, making those PPTs, and then showing those PPTs, and then like step by step how to make things. So that is happening. Also, we have one champ who is interning with us now, and he's helping with some creatives and coordination and all that. So this is how the journey have been for Club Youngistan so
Fantastic.
far.
Fantastic. And it's a young journey. So, and you have achieved so much in that time. It's incredible. Shivani, the stories are a piece that are connecting everyone. And you are a therapeutic storyteller and a professional storyteller. When did you realize that, and Shivani also has a daughter who's neurodiverse. She has Down syndrome. But Down syndrome babies are different from autistic babies. And I always struggled with Madhav when I was going to tell him a story. But Shreya, on the other hand, used to absorb stories. And I always wondered if Madhav whether he's listening to me or not, whether he is even grasping or not. And then over a period of time, I learned that anything which was repeatedly told to him, even if it was a story, there was absorption. He was absorbing it. But Shivani, you, of course, have been telling stories to your other two children as well. Tell me, when did you think that this storytelling can be an important tool? And what was your experience like having gotten into that journey?
So, I was a journalist, so storytelling was part of my life, whether it was weaving facts together to create a story. And then I think from a very earlier on, I believed that sharing books with my children, the older one, was equally important. So books and stories were always part of our family. But when Shreya came in, I realized that sometimes when we had, in particular, behavior issues, so I started using stories to teach her about her that particular challenge. Would put it down on paper, if you can call it a social story, but you can't always put it down on paper. You can't always make it visual. So I said, what else can we do? So an example was, Shreya was, one day I came back home, Shreya was standing outside in the peak of summer afternoon, and she's wearing 8 layers of clothing. All right, she's wearing 2 pullovers and 2 winter jackets, and I don't know what all underneath. And everybody had tried to bring her in. She was waiting for the help to come back in. They get very attached to the help. So she wasn't listening to anyone. She's a little on the heavier side. Getting her in, picking her up was not an option. She was 10 plus. So at the moment I saw her, instead of giving her any input, which she had already been getting from everywhere, and her brain had just frozen by then, I immediately started with a story. So my first sentence was, Shreya, do you know what happened? Summer came and spoke to me. And you know what Winter said? She wants to make friends with you. And I had got her attention. My eyes were wide open. My voice had gone up and down. I had hand movement. I had got her attention. And once I got her attention, I started creating a story as we went along. I said, there was a little girl and she was talking about summer and she said she's feeling hot and things. I kept weaving the story, and I held her hand gently without her even realizing it, because she was so absorbed listening to me, looking at my face. And I gradually went and took her inside the house. At least she was inside an AC room by then. These were some of the instances which happened again and again. There are many more incidents that made me realize that storytelling is not just about telling a story. It's also about theater. It's also about voice. It's also about vocabulary, language, your facial expressions, and especially when it comes to our children with neurodiversity, because someone may not be hearing very well. Someone may not be comprehending what's going on, but he's attracted to your facial expressions, to your voice, to your combination of all of this. And it is multisensorial that way, right? So it grabs their attention. And initially, of course, it was Down syndrome. But when I started interacting with more children with other needs, children on the spectrum, children who are nonverbal, but have other means of expression, art, for example, I realized that everyone can connect with a story. Irrespective of what your needs are, a story will connect with you, no matter where you are, no matter what your needs or challenges are. And it so happened, for example, I was doing a story about somebody making a roti, right? And I said, it's just not a story. Let's make a roti at the end of the story. And this is on an online session. And I told everybody to get atta and everything with them. I think out of the group of 12 young adults, 3 parents wrote back to me and said, our child could never touch the flour, whether it was the dried one or the gunda hua atta, because of the sensory issues, right? But the story was so interesting, and they were doing it as a group, that they were motivated by each other, that child, that young adult actually made roti, actually used the roller and made a roti. So I mean, these were moments when I felt, yaar, ये तो करना ही चाहिए और हर किसी के साथ करना चाहिए. Every child hear a story, no matter what the challenge is. And that's how this journey started.
When we think about stories, we think of them in a very typical way.
Yes.
Yeah, we think of them as the ones in the book, in the books, the ones we read. But when you are a special needs parent, stories take a huge different meaning for us. I remember somebody had told me, I said, but the books have sentence and he doesn't know how to read yet. And she said, please do not use those sentences. Make your own sentence, make your own books, but do tell the stories, right? And I think that was a turning point where we realized that everything that other children learn organically has to be taught to our kids, and stories then become a very, very important tool in achieving so. Jyotsna, tell us about your experiences when it comes to story, and and running this platform. Also, a lot of times people just say every performance has to be perfect, right? And people look for perfection, and people look for when they put even stuff on a social media handle, or when they put it out there, there is so much performance pressure, etc. But I always see these young champs blissfully doing it. So what is the magic that you guys weave and tell them to be so comfortable and come forward and do it?
I think it's just about letting them be. The USP of Youngistan actually has been to cover all disabilities. So even if you're looking at a long-term vision, it includes its span disabilities. And I'm a parent of a young adult with cerebral palsy. So my experience is very different. So is Pratima's. But we were so clear that we're not going to make it a specific disability focus. I think it's, as what you mentioned is very true, Mugdha. I think we also call it inspiration porn or toxic positivity, where you're supposed to really deliver and be on top of things and try and fit in or be as good as neurotypical. I think for us, it's just about creating a space. That was the goal, a space that could be an interactive sharing, a non-judgmental space. So even as Pratima shared about the Adda, that's a huge, huge space for the young adults where no parents come in. And we also realized that many parents were keen to showcase the young adults' talents. And why not? They do have their unique skills and talents, and they didn't have a platform. But we have never really said, or even in our brief or conversation, that it's got to, match up or got to be perfect, or, this theme, that theme. We just give them a brief. And you very often find in the videos, they're humming and hawing, and they're just kind of connecting, then they're flowing, then they're speaking and sharing. It's actually very beautiful. And I think all the diversity of the pan disability experience has been a huge learning for us at Club Youngistan. And not just in sharing of skills, I think even in the way they communicate, the non-verbals, the verbals, they all come together. And in fact, sometimes we tend to forget that, they have a challenge of some sort. Yes.
Right. Pratima, did you ever see parents hesitating, and the child is very out there and wants to be it, but did you see hesitation from parents and about putting things on a platform, etc.? And I ask this question for a reason, which I'll come to later, but I just want to pick on your experience, whether you saw that happen when you were interacting with children.
Very often. Children wants to be part of many things, but parents would say like ये शायद नहीं बैठेगा, online इसको नहीं जमता है, ये बात नहीं करता है तो कैसे participate करेगा. All those things we have heard. But we have Gopal's entry here, and he was the first non-verbal to join sessions online. And she actually, I mean, she was saying that I will try, and she started trying. And after a few sessions, initially he used to beat in the sessions also, and after a few sessions, he started paying attention. He would say hi to friends, wave in his like he's non-verbal, so he will say hi, waving, or he will write down and say hi. Yeah, it was happening, and then we used to tell this story to other. See, this non-verbal is already doing.
Right.
So that's how, I mean, we have experienced this many a times that parents are hesitating, and kids are actually doing very well on sessions and online things also.
Shivani, the reason I asked Pratima this question was that we also got a lot of entries where the parents shared the stories with us, but they weren't comfortable sharing the child's name or their identity or identification of their, their condition. And but the only thing that made me feel good was that, all right, at least the child participated, and we could take their entries, right? And we knew who these children were. So from our end, we sent them congratulations and some messages. But how often do you see this happen? And I know it's a rhetoric question because we do see it. So how do the stories go out if people are not keen or are afraid to share their stories?
So I think there are two aspects to this. One is that the parent sometimes feels that it is a temporary condition. वो कहने को कह रहे हैं, हो जाएगा ठीक, बड़ा mild है, पता नहीं चलेगा लोगों को. The fact that the child is going for therapy may not, everybody in the family may not be aware of it. तो therapy के बाद थोड़े साल कराएंगे तो पता नहीं चलेगा लोगों को, everything will be fine. So why come out in the open about it? That is one thing.
Right.
Second thing, in a way, it is good that the child, told a story. It's an achievement for the child, but it's a half-baked achievement. With our children, what happens is there's only those few opportunities they get to be appreciated, right? And I feel if it was Shreya telling a story, I would read every message to her and say, you know what, Shreya, your Masi message, she's saying, Shreya, you did a wonderful job. Or your Nani said this. Oh, look, my friend has said this. Maybe I would ask one of my friends to record a little 20-second video saying that, Shreya, you did a wonderful job. My God, if it can boost our confidence, imagine what it does to our children who are hungry for this. They may not be able to communicate that hunger to us or the need to us, but we all need that appreciation and that motivation. So I felt, I mean, when you shared that with me, I was like, एक session करने दो उनके साथ. Let me speak to the parents and let me tell them what a disservice you're doing to your child. But I think fundamentally parents need to realize that when your child is born with this condition, it is for life. And I feel there is lack of acceptance, which is why they behave in the way they are behaving. So starting from the beginning and telling them, please accept your child the way he or she is. That is very important.
I know. I think we need to have a chicken soup for the parents' soul. It is so important. And I think that is one of the other questions that, often Nidhi and Archana had for me, as the neurotypical partners, right? And every conversation of ours was actually from two different worlds. So Nidhi, I mean, one of those questions that we have always grappled with is, how do we talk? How do we reach out to this community? And you're sitting at a platform which is all about expression and reaching out. So what were some of your learnings in this while?
So firstly, I can't believe that we are nearing the end of this month-long festival. It seems like just a few days back when many of us were in the same call launching it. And we had so many doubts. So yeah, I run a platform for neurotypicals to come, and it started off as getting published. So there was this whole thing about writing. But we've come a very long way. We realized, like in the video we said, that while we used to say we are for all kids, when we met Madhav, we heard Mugdha's stories, we realized we were not catering to all kids. We had left out this whole neurodiverse community, and not that different. And this fest is kind of making amends in that direction. But having said that, I think plenty of anxiety, because this kind of a model has not existed before. It was a very new idea. Our premise was that neurotypicals will be more aware through stories as a tool rather than essays and blogs or say information brochures that something like this exists. This is Down syndrome. This is someone, there people could have autism. So the premise was that when you see somebody like that, you have a name, you have a face, there's a person, and hence you are automatically, there is, some empathy kicking in instead of just, I have to absorb this information. But I don't think it would have been possible without the confidence that we got from all of the partners here. We spoke of how jazzy the Club Youngistan videos are. I remember when I saw the first one with beading and this awesome hip music playing in the background, we realized that this could be fun. It doesn't have to be dreary. It doesn't have to be a lecture that you must learn this. This is something you need to understand. So it was very cool. I think we got a lot of confidence from there. And of course, from Shivani's own, she's so convinced about the power of stories, both in terms of how it helps you address some multisensorial issues, but also that kids would love to take up a platform like this. So if we didn't have that confidence, we would probably not have launched the fest. But obviously, we didn't expect the fantastic response that we got. Yeah, 1 month doesn't seem to be enough to publish all the stories that we've been getting. But these were a bunch of things that were on our mind. And of course, while we run a platform for neurotypicals, they spread out across 150 locations worldwide, but there was no telling that they would also be receptive. So you have enough stories, but will you get a response from the neurotypicals? So there were a lot of these balls we were juggling. But certainly there was a belief, knowing, reading, listening to a lot of our young adults, I wouldn't say so much as listening to moms like me, but from this young community, that they care. And it's amazing. Just last weekend, so every weekend we have a panel conversation like this. Last weekend, we had a bunch of our young teens talking about books and movies on inclusion. And they were all neurotypicals, because the audience for a lot of these movies is neurotypicals. You're still trying to get a message out. And they were talking about how, people don't want sympathy. They're looking at empathy. And I was like, oh, wow. At 13, the difference between the two. Things like, let's not patronize, let's just appreciate. And they was like, it was amazing. So we kind of got a drift that, yeah, if we present this to young people, it might work well. And it did. We have messages from Aligarh and some from Kerala, all over India, where children are writing into these neurodiverse kids who participated, saying there's someone who suggested, why don't you have a YouTube channel? I love watching your stories. So it was very heartening. It is really still something I think all of us in the founding team are emotional about. We never thought it would be so exciting, the way things have turned out. But yeah, fantastic experience from my side. Yes, now coming back to the question, I think I had a lot to gush about, given that it's the end of the fest. But yeah, I think there is, I wouldn't say I'm not representative of the whole neurotypical community. I'm just one person. And like anything else, there are enough sample points. So I'm just one of them. But if I look at more people like me and like the young adults who talk who are sending out these messages. So they're very keen to understand to a certain extent. Of course, they can't devote their life to understanding very minor details, what brings this about or whatever. They are very keen to be friends, but there is a certain hesitation, and I would say a certain being overcautious that the words we use may not come out right. It could offend somebody. And now, having been tuned into the neurodiverse world because of not that different myself, I see there's a lot of there's this whole movement, or there's this whole conversation about using the right language. I could see the reverse of it when parents send in their description of the child. So they'll just say child with autism, child who's autistic. But as a neurotypical, we are reading about how people would say it should be autistic child first or child with autism first. So, when you're from the neurotypical community, these become like, oh my God, I don't want to say something. I want to be helpful and not offensive.
Person first or identity
yeah.
first.
Yeah, there's just so much of...
I tell you, we are in the neurodiverse community also feel कि हम किसी को offend ना कर दे, हम क्या language use करें, so you're not alone.
Yeah, so I think only those hesitations are there for sure. And I'm very happy if you guys could tell us like a quick one thing you do in a day, everyday inclusion kind of thing. Don't worry about this, focus on this when you engage with my child kind of thing. And we can put that out as quick pointers to our whole lot of neurotypical kids and young adults we have on our platform.
Wonderful. Shivani, start. One thing that we can do to tell people that this is what you can do to drive everyday inclusion. And also, if I can add to that as a conclusion to this session, that how can we take our stories out? How do we push people out to come and speak about their stories? This festival is, of course, one such effort. But how do we tell people to come and tell us their stories as well?
So I think what we did, this festival was a great platform, and I think it was the first of its kind. But I think I would say you should continue with, have some kind of something on the weekends so that children know they can continue. There is some place that they can continue to send, and it will be shown. It will be on your YouTube, but on maybe they should check on weekends. So have weekends for storytelling or storytelling weekends, something like that, because nobody's doing this. People may be putting up videos individually or in their personal capacity, but there is no other platform, no YouTube channel, no organization that is doing this. So I think maybe like a storytelling weekends, maybe something like that, where we know that it's happening, because I'm still being messaged by children, because as they're seeing their friends and peers videos, they're saying, I also want to tell. And the ones jinka nahi aaya hai, they are also messaging me, so you better put it out really fast.
No, that's fantastic, Shivani. Totally taken. Yeah. I think we anyways always meant to publish. We've been doing a bit of it, but I think this Fest has given it a great impetus. So I'm taking your suggestion totally on.
You know why storytelling becomes even more important? Because that is an expression, right? They are able to, so communication is like one of the biggest challenges. When they tell a story, it's like they're overcoming, or at least trying to overcome that challenge. And that I think is important. Everything else, padhna, likhna, sab kuch baad mein hai. Pehla, communication is the most important thing. So I think carry this on, Nidhi, really. I mean, for long term.
Super. Great suggestion. And we can easily implement it. So and lots of enthu right now, given the response.
Great.
Pratima, Jyotsna, what would your suggestion be? You're already running a platform. How can we collaborate more? How do we push for more stories and everyday inclusion? Maybe we have the neurotypical community as well. So perhaps, get them together. Any suggestions that you have about taking the momentum forward?
I think collaborate. Sorry, go ahead, Jyotsna.
As Shivani was sharing, it also struck me that, stories actually build friendships. And I think that comes as a beautiful reminder, because it's also like, when you're reading something or seeing the creation of the story, it's like that connection feeling comes that, oh, I feel the same. And I think that comes also when you're reading a book or listening to a story. And I think the other powerful aspect of stories is also it's a form of advocacy. It in a very, I won't say in a kind of in the face way, but in some way you're kind of also saying that, I'm not a single story person. I'm so multi-layered, and the disability. And as you say, not that different. Yeah, we're really not that different. But I think it's not even about pushing for more stories. I think they're all there. It's just that, constant reminder that what is actually happening when these stories are put out there for all communities to kind of, listen and observe. Yeah, Pratima.
Yeah, so this is really wonderful, and Shivani's suggestion, I think that would really work well, telling the stories and meeting people online, and like friendship happens there. Also, like you were talking about how can we collaborate. So we do have one more initiative. I forgot to mention. It's Project Maitri. So there we have some neurotypicals who are joining in. They do conduct some session just like that, like communicating or telling some story. They will share a YouTube video or something like that, and then they speak about it, ask the questions like that. Also, they do one-on-one mentoring if anyone is interested like that. So maybe that can be a collaborative effort between Club Youngistan and all of us. I mean.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm already now expecting this to be a continual effort from all of us. And if you all come together, and especially right now we are doing it with children, and and Shivani and I have been also talking about bringing in more parents to come and talk about their stories. And in fact, that would be also one of our concluding piece of the festival, maybe next week, which is we reach out to more parents and we talk to them as to why there is a need for them to tell their stories, why they need to share with the world what our lives are like. And because they also, as Shivani said, it also serves as somebody who's also watching someone's story. They also feel like a bacha might say ki mujhe bhi apni kahani sunani hai. In a similar way, a parent also might feel the need to share their ups and downs, and that then becomes like a support group. And that's the reason why, the stories start to matter so much. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking out time this Saturday evening, and for being part of this festival. And this is just the beginning. And today we may be ending the month, but we are not ending the momentum. So thank you so much for being our partners.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.